Hello, hello. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the MWCC podcast. Series Mike for Environmental Experts. I have the pleasure of having Gil Kauffmann with me as our first guest / guinea pig. Gil's been in the environmental field since 1990 with a specialization in lab packs, waste transportation, field services, disposal, and compliance. Did I miss anything there, Gil?
Well, actually, I started in '87 as a field biologist for Ameren.
There you go.
So that's where I got
First
started.
3 years of your career there.
Now I feel even older.
Wow, how long did you stick around with Ameren for? Was it just the first couple years, or?
It was more of an internship,
Nice. Is that how you got into the field?
definitely. That started off my career.
What made you stay in the field after starting off at Ameren?
I actually started in high school. I knew that I really wanted to go into the recycling of solvents and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And went to Rolla in chemical engineering. That didn't work out. And then when I came back to St. Louis and I was doing biology at University of Missouri, St. Louis, ran into a sign in the hallway about Ameren looking for people and went to work for them. After that, then found an ad in the newspaper for chemical waste management, and that was the rest of the story. I've been in it ever since.
Nice. I have to say, as the father of teenagers, I've never heard a high school kid tell me they want to get into recycling solvents. So what drew you to that? Chemistry class, or what was the experience there?
That was 40-something years ago. I don't remember. I just know that was something I had read about, or, I can't remember, but I just know that is the direction I wanted to go.
Nice. How have things evolved? Have you seen it since like the early 90s being in the field? What are some of the biggest changes?
Well, there is a lot more recycle, beneficial reuse. We're looking for better ways to reduce, reuse, recycle the hazardous materials and chemicals that we have out there. So it's all a good thing.
Now, as far as, the technology, I'm sure, has gotten better. What's been the biggest roadblock to doing even more? Is it people's mindsets, technological barriers?
It's constant. Everybody has hazardous waste. Through technology and things have changed a lot in 45 years, but the direction we've gone with people determining, different chemicals to use and better chemicals to use and how to recycle them, has really helped us, minimize the waste that we work with out there.
Nice. I imagine that's led to cleaner manufacturing practices too. As we move forward and maybe get some more manufacturing back in this country, you see it coming back with, without the Cuyahoga River turning on fire again.
Yeah, there were some bad things back in the day, that's for sure.
Yeah. Nice. Good to hear. And then what's unique about your current position you're in at Arcwood?
What was that?
What's unique about your current role at Arcwood?
I've been in sales since, really 93, 94, and I've always sold all of the waste services, hazardous waste, lab packs, incineration waste, fuels, the whole gamut of the waste industries. The big part that has changed is that, especially since COVID and everything, is that amount, how I have to do my job. It's, with social media and the amount of texting, emails. It has really changed. Go back into the mid 90s, and I was knocking on doors every day and, cold calls and that sort of thing. And that's just not a standard practice anymore.
I've always kind of wondered about that, being in sales myself as my day job. It's always been emails on the phone and working on your laptop on the fly. That had to be a whole different world, pre-cell phone, pre-email and all that. I'm somewhat jealous. I would like to have experienced that.
Well, I had a bag phone back in those mid 90s, so we weren't totally eliminated, but it was a bag and it had a cord that plugged into the cigarette lighter and had its antenna and everything. So we had ways of communication, but fax machines and nowadays everybody expects everything done instantaneously, where back then, you had to mail stuff and fax stuff, and there's a little time delay in what it took to get something accomplished.
Gotcha. Now, you're working it from the hazardous waste angle, but do you often find yourself collaborating with environmental consultants, manufacturing firms, and curious, how you've seen those collaborations change over the years?
Well, over the years, I think right now we've got where companies, I think we're seeing a lack of environmental people in the industry, and a lot of the consulting firms are actually working and handling the environmental issues for our companies. So I'm constantly working with the consultants and environmental engineering companies to help them with cleanup projects. Worked with one just 2 weeks ago on a lab pack and a final clean out for a company. Interact with them quite a bit.
So the trend has kind of been from like an in-house environmental person at these manufacturing sites or waste sites to hiring it out to the consultants, and you work with the consultants. Is that what you've seen kind of happen?
Little bit. I mean, all the companies out there still have environmental people, but people are wearing a lot of hats, and I'm finding that some companies that used to have some environmental people, now it's the warehouse guy that is managing it, and they have their consultants and that are helping them figure out what exactly they need to do and how to do it legally and correct.
Nice. And then, I saw, kind of switching gears a bit, recently Arcwood transitioned from being Heritage Environmental. What's the new brand represent for you, and what's that mean on your day to day?
Well, really, we haven't changed much at all. Well, to an extent, Arcwood, Heritage, we were bought by a private equity January 2024, and it took a while for them to find a good name for us. So March of this year, we rebranded, and um, Arcwood was the name and the logo they came up with. It's the arc and the strength of the arc and strength of wood that kind of brings it all together, to be a strong part of the environmental hazardous waste industry.
What's exciting you the most right now at Arcwood? What changes around the horizon? What new things, technologies?
Growth and expansion. This last year, we purchased the explosive incinerator down in Joplin, Missouri.
Oh, nice.
So I had the opportunity to go down and visit that with a couple customers and send explosives into that location. And it's really a whole different, after 40 years, thought I'd seen it all, but getting to go in there and take a customer in and actually see explosives going through into the incinerator and how it's all handled, it was exciting. So, right, we've actually purchased a couple other companies, and Arcwood's going to be growing and expanding the capabilities that we have.
Nice. Two questions come to mind. A, putting explosives into an incinerator sounds super dangerous and, illogical almost. Curious how that kind of works, if you could divulge it all. And then secondly, is that one of the few facilities in the US that can do that kind of work?
Yes, there's just a couple. I'm not familiar with all of them. I'm familiar with that one. But if they manage the per pounds of explosive in that, they can safely incinerate it and dispose of it properly.
Interesting. Very cool. So what do you see as the biggest regulatory and compliance challenges your clients are facing today?
I had a meeting with a fire department today, and PFAS is the big issue. And where's the EPA going with all of the PFAS information, and how is it really going to be regulated?
Interesting. And now what are y'all doing in terms of handling PFAS as a waste, destruction, fate and transport? What's the game plan at Arcwood these days on PFAS?
Well, we're not putting any of it in our landfill because at this time, but we are incinerating it. Our East Liverpool, Ohio incinerator is taking it. If you burn it hot enough, the AFFF breaks down. So that's the main direction we're headed with it. Using third party, for the concentrate, the foams, incineration, the waters, dilution part of it. We can solidify in landfill or put it through water treatment to extract the AFFF and then send that for incinerations.
Nice.
We use a lot. Our third party disposal companies help us out with things that are a little bit hard to handle, so we make sure everything is handled the best way.
Gotcha. And now PFAS not being overly regulated at this point on the national level, more on the state level. What are you seeing in Missouri? Is there still a lot of folks concerned about it, although there's not much in the way of state regulations at the current time?
Oh, it's still kind of, in my eyes, it's still kind of a gray area. But I know that the Missouri DNR is working on some things, and we'll just have to see what the EPA comes out with so that everybody can follow suit.
Gotcha. Do you have are you seeing clients trying to get ahead of the curve at all? And, regardless of regulation, trying to get out in front and get rid of the stuff and get it off their properties, what have you?
Well, the Champ landfill here in St. Louis has their facility that they built for their leachate and that. So there's different ways of treating it being put into effect. So everybody's, trying to get ahead of things so that we're not caught blindsided when the regulations get changed, if they get changed.
And besides PFAS, what other kind of cleanup and remediation trends are you tracking in Missouri right now?
You know, that's really the big one right now. Anything else, over the years, we've done the PCBs, we've done the dioxins, we've done the different things, but PFAS is the big thing right now. And other than that, it's day to day with fuels and, doing the lab packs and, incineration of what plants are producing and water treatment and so forth. So, that is the big one that's kind of is on everybody's mind.
And then for my own personal curiosity, what's the bigger market for hazardous waste, St. Louis or Kansas City?
I haven't spent a lot of time in Kansas City, so I don't know all the customers there, but we're probably pretty much equal.
There's no bragging rights for Royals or Cardinals fans on this one, huh?
Oh yeah, there's definitely bragging rights. More Chicago St. Louis than it is Kansas City St. Louis.
Cards. Let's just say that much.
Definitely.
Yep. All right. Well, what would you say in the, your almost 40-year career, what project or lesson have you learned that really stands out to you and stuck with you? Project you've worked on or lesson learned?
Well, I'm a very active person, and the thing that I like about my job and working in the environmental field, it's something different every day.
Nice.
Every customer's different. It's just, I've worked on, Times Beach, working with the PFAS. There's been so many exciting things over the years that it's, one thing after another. The exciting part is the people I've met, the friends I have in the industry, through MWCC. I really enjoy the conference we have every year just because there's so many people that I know, and it's a great group of people that we work with. So the people and the variety is the best thing that's out there.
I would agree. Great conference. I enjoy the people, the variety. For those who don't know, if you are at the MWCC conference, Gil has all the fishing poles for the kids out there. You show up. Thank you for that. My kids thank you, that is. So what advice do you have for new professionals entering the field?
Get involved with local organizations. You'll learn so much more by being in MWCC, being in the Gateway Society of Hazardous Material Managers, the safety professional organizations. There's so much help out there from being involved with those groups, that the friends that you'll make. So you got people to rely on that you can call and ask for advice, and just going to the meetings, and that it's a wealth of information that you'll learn. And because this isn't something that you really go to school to learn, you get a degree and then you get thrown into the field, and you learn something new every day. 40 years in this, and I'm learning something new every day. Regulations change every day. Missouri reg form, lots of good information, reach out to be parts of organizations, and that'll help you out.
I think that's great advice for all the young professionals out there. I couldn't agree more from my own experience.
And I know that, just like MWCC, we try to have our young professional meeting at the conference. And so as more experienced in the field that I am, we're looking for to help those out, because I'm hoping to retire here in 5-6 years, and we want to make sure there's somebody behind us to take over and take the reins and run the organizations and keep everything going.
There you go. The importance of succession planning there, for sure.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
I'd try and sneak into a young professional meeting, but I unfortunately aged out a couple of years ago. But I'd like to think I'm wiser now.
So all you got to do is be on the board, and then you get to go in and talk to the young professionals and mentor them a little bit. So, because I sneak in every year.
Nice. I like it. Speaking of, the young professionals and what they're looking at in the future ahead, over the next decade, what do you see being the biggest innovation or the most transformative aspects of what we do in the environmental field here, especially in Missouri?
Wow. That's a loaded question. Who knows what's the next big thing after PFAS that they're going to hit?
Yeah.
That's really going to regulate like that. Still, we don't know exactly what cleanup levels and how it's going to be regulated. It's hard to say, to be honest with you.
Yep. I know you got things like microplastics coming down the pike on the contamination side. Curious to see what happens myself with, AI picking up some of the administrative tasks, even some of the reporting. And I know I work currently in the laboratory business, and seeing some of the robots take and handle samples is pretty interesting. So I think we're on the
See, the
precipice.
microplastics won't affect me as much because it's not, I don't see that being considered hazardous, so I won't deal with that. But
Gotcha.
I have a real vested interest. I think it's fascinating, some of the presentations that I've seen at MWC and seeing on what is, you don't realize until it's brought to light that, hey, we're all ingesting this stuff daily and something
Yeah.
needs to be done with, cleaning up the water in that before it gets back out to the public.
Could you see Arcwood getting involved maybe on the remediation side of the issue in the future as opposed to since it's not a hazardous waste?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
We're going to stick with more I see us sticking more with the hazardous waste. That's a full-time job dealing with the hazardous materials. Hopefully with the growth of manufacturing more coming back to the states, it's going to give us a lot more to deal with. And a lot of the incinerators are really close to capacity and working on trying to make room. We just got our Orange County, Texas incinerator to where we can ship from customers direct into the incinerator. And it's opened up some capacity to relieve some of the other incinerators.
Nice, nice. And that's a brand new incinerator online down in Texas?
It's it was a captive incinerator for years. And then after we purchased it, we've had to go through the permitting process to get it to where we can send customers directly into the facility.
Gotcha, gotcha. And on that note, too, what do you next for you and Arcwood in Missouri here, do you think? Your next role, Arcwood's next growth move?
Here in Missouri, just get out there and help as many generators as possible with their disposal. And, because we've got our Indianapolis facility, Roachdale, that does in Indianapolis, we do treatment. And so, lead contaminated soils, those kinds of things can be treated, and then we can take it to our Roachdale landfill. So we offer that aspect. And I know there's, with some of the lead contaminated areas in Missouri, we have that service that we can provide. We provide, the lab packs expanding out, but I don't see anything major changing, just that there's a lot of opportunities that we haven't tapped into yet.
Gotcha. I assume you're referring to the old lead belt down there in southeast Missouri, St. Francis Mountain?
I know there's some stuff down there that needs to be handled, and, we'll see how it goes.
Nice, nice. Well, Gil, this has been a great conversation. Appreciate you sharing all your insights. Before we go, a couple of quick final questions, if you don't mind.
Okay.
If someone wants to connect with you or Arcwood for services, what's the best way to reach you?
Get a hold of me at gkauffmann at arcwoodenviro.com or at 618-4410.
Appreciate
or you
that.
can Google Arcwood and it'll take you to our corporate website, and I can be reached through there.
Sounds good. Appreciate you sharing that. And then is there a resource or a book or a website you'd recommend to our listeners that, you rely on for information or go to?
You know what? The internet has changed. I mean, when I started 40 years ago, I had the hazardous waste Bible, as I called it, that I carried with me all the time. And, SDSs and everything. But this computer now, all you got to do is type it in and it's at your fingertips. So no particular website, but I highly recommend being part of an organization. So if you can't find something or stumped, you got mentors and others to reach out to.
Appreciate that. And then in one sentence, why does it matter being a part of the MWCC, or what do you value and do you see in the community? And I think you've touched on this some, but.
Well, MWCC is such a great resource. I mean, the training we offer, seminars that are offered, the convention, and just the networking with, with the waste companies, the industry companies, the engineering and consulting firms. It's a wealth of information. You can always find somebody that can help you out or a way to figure out an environmental problem.
I would agree with you for sure. I enjoy being a member myself and hosting this here podcast. So, well, thanks again for being our guest. To our listeners out there, if you like this episode, consider supporting the MWCC by becoming a member. You could join at mowastecoalition.org. See you next time. And Gil, you have a great day. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Take care.